All right, good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 161st episode of our first run as the artist through Book of Hours and our first run on YouTube. So we finished off our we finished off our mastery with Door and Wall, and I do have a bit of a surplus in terms of these lessons here. The other thing I wanted to take a quick look at would be what books I want to read next. So I have a little bit of a dilemma here. So we've got The Origins of Hours, we've got The Focus of Amber, and we've got Nyx Abalix. And one of the reasons why I'm particularly interested in Nyx Abalix is that my ability to read that also suggests that I can read the 3 and 3, the Saint Chiavi manuscript. Now, in fairness, Nyx Abalix is actually the easier of the texts for me to read, so I'm probably going to focus on that. So maybe what I'll do before I push myself too far, let's just see what the plan is for reading that particular text. So I guess it was Desires and Dissolution, so we had 9 there. We would apply the Tryst, which would be 10. Interesting. So I guess I was relying on the Wormwood Dream in that case, which is not a hardship, but that is not the easiest thing for me to get my hands on right now. So as an alternative, if I were to go for Sky, now this kind of interests me because I didn't think I had that high of a power of Sky. So Applebright Euphonies at 7. 8. And I'm somehow going to find another 8 out of that. Interesting. Looking at the monitors, I know some of you got to hear my neighbors. I'm recording this after midnight, so this gives you an idea of what I'm working with my neighbors. There's literally a dog barking in the hall. You may not have heard that, but definitely heard the slamming door. All right. I know I kind of worked some of this stuff out before. Now, again, whether or not that was translated on my... Oh, right, it was the Mazarine Fife that made that work. All right, then. So the reason why I'm sort of hemming and hawing about this is I'm trying to decide whether or not it's a good idea for me to try and read a book today, or if I put a little bit more effort into leveling all of these other things up, and then I sort of build the conditions for my next level up. I think I'm going to focus on leveling up what I already have in the list. So let's have a chat with Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. And maybe it would have been an idea for me to bring in Mr. Kill with the winter, but we only have one for sea stories, so that's not too big of a problem. Door and Wall. Okay, I still haven't really decided between Horns and Ivories and Solutions and Separations, but I think I'm going to lean towards low-level improvements. Okay, so let's say, for the sake of argument, we'll take Sea Stories, so that gives us a Tryst to work with. Solutions and Separations is also a Tryst. Spices and Savors can be leveled up with a metal. And then we'll need 2 elements of the soul to... sorry, we'll need 1 element of the soul to bring that to level 2. No, sorry, 2 for Spices and Savors. Which means I need 1 for leveling up Solutions and separations. C stories would require 4. So this is all very sort of loose right here. And the last one I think was horns and ivories. Yeah. Okay, so technically all of the elements of the soul are spoken for at the start of the day. Now, clearly we are not, we're not actually gonna lock it in that way. This is just me reserving everything for the eventual leveling up. All right. So we have a couple seconds left with Dr. Southey. All right, drawn spin trio for our trouble. And Dr. Southey, inspired by the stories of St. Mihail's coffin, to look into the story of St. Columba's sarcophagus, seemed to find what she sought. Always the tide, she said. Connie, MCO Lee, suspected that St. Mihail's coffin might contain a name of the chandler. Perhaps, she said, the second one she'd heard mentioned that year. She was clearly perturbed by the possibility, and Dr. Peel, confident that the occupant of St. Mihail's coffin would escape soon, was equally confident that someone or something would be eaten by something or someone. He seemed quite chipper about it. Alright, we're going to put Mrs. Kill to work. I do also still need to take a look into the possibilities of leveling her up to open up the rattling tunnels. We'll worry about that a bit later. So I do want to get a replacement egg at some point, but right now I have other priorities in terms of making all this stuff work. So actually, let me just take a second here and see if I've got a lantern or a sky to deal with on any of these. Nope. So the sunny day doesn't do anything for me right now. Regrets. All right, so that definitely applies to spices and savors. And essentially what I'm doing here is I'm just starting to recover individual elements of the soul as the day goes by. I don't actually have any priority in terms of what element of the soul I'm restoring. Most of the extra plans that I have for the day are going to be, or they're going to be sort of handled later and by something else. But like I said, I'm not too fussed about leaving it for... As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So I do this at the start, mostly just because I'm not going to need to use the element of the soul at the very beginning of the day, but it does earn me the... basically, it earns me 3 recoveries, including its own. So realistically, I get 2 extra uses of the elements, and then of course, because we're up to a £5 note, you know, I've tended to let the surplus sort of run away with me, but... That's true for Cultist Simulator too. It's very easy to build up wealth that you don't necessarily use. Although what's kind of interesting is in the case of Hush House, I think there is an argument that building the like you have librarians that didn't manage the finances well, and so you know St. Ronwin's Trust, like doing something, being a good steward of the trust's money, is part of the job. It would be kind of interesting to see if they had a way of handling some of the, you know, something to use the money for once you've opened up the rest of the rooms. I realized that the big demand was more interactions with visitors, which I think is completely fair. But I think in the case of Cultist Simulator, there's something kind of interesting about the fact that the funds don't really have a purpose past a certain point. And you can kind of see how the fact that you have something like a, you know, I'm going to focus on, I'm going to give up on my occult dreams and instead, you know, become a banker ending. Like that would be the one where you prioritize funds. And if you don't do that, then it's there's a suggestion that past, allowing you to continue to survive, funds doesn't really matter in this world. That is absolutely astonishing that I've gotten this many regrets in a row. I think there's something kind of interesting that's revealed about the world by that division. But in the case of Book of Hours, it really does feel like there is a purpose to funds, to the money, that wouldn't necessarily apply in the case of Cultist Simulator. It's not the only difference between the two games, but it's one where I sort of feel that on the list of things to do, I would imagine this being a little bit higher than maybe the fans would rate. And I mean, obviously I have some thoughts in terms of how that might be done, but I don't think my thoughts are maybe the most interesting, right? Like, some of the delight of this series of games is the fact that Weather Factory is so much more clever than its fan base in terms of where they can go with it. Anyways, I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Improve the skill to level 3. So as you can see here, right, the whole plan has been just to try it quietly, put things in and out. I should actually get a little more serious about leveling up some of these remaining skills. Okay, the Gossip will help me out here. I think the time has come for... A pattern is kind of a guaranteed win for sure. So let's use the... We don't really have opportunities to do anything else, so let's use the Arab for the pattern right away. So the reason why I'm getting a little self-conscious about what I need to apply my elements of the soul towards, if I'm not careful, I'm going to have a big traffic jam at the end with 3 elements of the... Or sorry, 3 lessons. And there's not going to be enough time over the course of the day to level them all up. So the pattern is the first... That one's kind of a safe bet because I can apply that for just about anything in terms of door and wall. Now I also have an opportunity to play around with the Morphe Codex, just to see if that will get me the Grail memory that I need. So I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. It is not clear at all which Newman I need. I don't believe I will use a Newman for any of the sky texts or the moon texts that I have. So I think I'm just going to leave that aside. Unless I wind up, wanting to... Actually, you know what? One thing that would have been nice would be to use the Edict Martial to generate a Wormwood Dream. That's definitely something that I let lapse. So let's see if we can correct that mistake now. It will probably cost me, but let's see. Okay, so I got Edict's Martial. I would want to throw a Tryst at it. Say I definitely need a memory, so we can throw the Sunshine in there. I don't think I have any altars. Well, sorry, I don't have solar altars that give me moon, but these do. So if I use Tryst and Tryst, now that's going to create a complication with solutions and separations. But I can repurpose the heart for horns and ivory, so we're still good there. I take Edict's Marshal there. So they're going to want a memory. That we definitely need a memory no matter what. And I will need... Oh, beverage. I wasn't thinking about that. So I believe the Witching to Sane gives me a moon. That or the Eigengrau. Both are easy to make. Okay, Witching to Sane definitely doesn't, but... So I definitely need a moon memory on that. You know what? Taking the Whist to get a... Okay, so clearly what I need to do now, I need to plan out exactly what elements of the soul I need and for what. So we're going to use... So for C stories, I'll use the core. For solutions and separations, I'll use the shaft. And for horns and ivories, I'll use the health. Okay, so that gives me something to start with. We are generating a pattern, so that's a freebie right now. This is so that I can generate a Wormwood Dream. If I generate an impulse, Mrs. Kill may generate an impulse, and I'm definitely fixed with solutions and separations. So the most general use... I've already got a pattern on the way. I'm trying to think if there's something that gives me Grail and Moon. Or sorry, like basically Grail, Moon, Knock, Forge. Like, so a Knock Moon, Knock Grail, Forge Grail, Forge Moon. I think that's hoping for too much. So the other way for me to think about this... Oh yes, I can also try and generate an Old Wound. Old Wound gives me a moon. Interesting. Let's do that then. Explore an old wound to awaken the violent resonances within. So I'll probably need a little help from what I can get in the Sweet Bones, but that's fine. I still have a game plan. The skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. So a lot of this also depends on what Mrs. Kill gives me. So these are freebies. May not be able to get an egg from the chickens. Well, especially because that will require talk. The Solace doesn't help me here. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. So yeah, a little unlucky in terms of some of the memories that we got for today, but I will live with that. Better now. So yeah, actually, this is the point where I should really get my act together. So, Morphe Codex. Wait, that's Twin Serpent Tantra. Did I not read the Morphe Codex? Something tells me I didn't. I suppose it'd be easier. Nope, it's at one of these desks. Okay, so let's say that's a beguiling melody on the way. And the old wound should give me a moon to work with. So I'm generating a pattern which I will use for solutions and separations. I need 2 to generate something for horns and ivories, although technically I do have an earth sign that I can apply to that. So let's say we use a secret threshold. I'm just trying to think of things that Mrs. Kill is not likely to generate on her own. I'm trying to remember any other sources of scale. I don't really think we have that much. I mean, the alternative is, I think I'll actually just wait on the earth sign. Because at that point, I'm just trying to get a recovery amount. Okay, another solace. Move gingerly while the pain lasts. Oh, you know what? I was going to use the old wound in the... I've really gone dumb now. I think the penalty is going to be I have to... I think I'm going to have to go overnight on one of these. Okay, let's focus on what we can... Nope. We can make the Wormwood Dream. Oh, because it's 2 moon. Alright. So recall a forgotten crime of moon and winter. So we got ourselves set up for the next day's readings. So the Twin Serpent Tantra. Just before the outbreak of the Great War, Alexander Sparrow, almost certainly a pseudonym, published leaflets claiming the influence of snake princes on world affairs. The text, called the Twin Serpent Tantra, was his primary inspiration. The Tantra describes the Great Hooded Princes, a dynasty of unclear origin, engaging in prayers, sacrifices, and poetry in honor of the Key Serpent, the Crossroads Twins, and the Mirror Queen. Nagai encircles, Nagai arises from wounds, Nagai spares those who are already harmed. The Great Hooded Princes are described as having escaped from the history of their death to a history where they yet live. The text claims that there are now 108 of them, but in one of many instances of twinnedness, before they crossed from their death chronicle, there were only 54. Okay, there's a pattern to work with. The sea does not regret. Isan Fekri, one time... Oh, so this was our moon. Isan Fekri, one-time Secretary Salvant of the Curie of the Isle, responsible for the Curie's healing efforts, writes of his experiences in Brandkrug and hints at his travels elsewhere. The sea does not regret the tide, Fekri writes, for when the tide has passed, it leaves its traces on the sand, which traces are the sea's memory. Fekri is a keen fisherman and speaks glowingly of the fish suppers of Brandkrug. He also admits that his enthusiasm for the bounty of the sea has altered him, that before he came to Brandkrug he consumed only those things found in the earth. I was the greater thereby, but all of us give up what we were to become what we are. So, Sea Spray, Depth Sorrow. And the Morphe Codex, a priestess of the Sisterhood of the Knot, claims to have discerned the true meaning of the Thunderskin's birth. The writer credits the Red Grail, the Ring Yew, and the Horned Axe, the powers that the Sisterhood reveres, with agreeing a final treaty between the Hours of the House and the Hours they displaced. The Thunderskin loved the Yew, and the Grail destroyed him as restitution for the slaying of the Horned Axe's sisters and brothers. The Thunderskin entered the Mansis through the Peacock Door, a privilege never given to the Witch and Sister, but then their merit was much less. The writer admits that entry through the peacock door is unseemly, but insists that under the circumstances there was no other way. Okay, so there was a beguiling melody after all. Now we're in pretty good shape, I would say. I do want to take stock in terms of what I have. But for sea stories, so if I want, I can just throw the salt at it, and then we're good to go. In fact, that's probably my best bet, even if Mrs. Kill winds up giving me something. Just being able to free up door and wall for the subsequent lessons seems to be worth it. So, sea stories, or salt's the only other option. So satisfying to have come so far. Improve the skill to level 5. So next thing I want to do here is just double check that I don't have any other books, or I don't have any other tasks running right now in terms of generating memories. So this is going to give me another knock. Okay, that's actually encouraging. This is spoken for. Okay, so no, I'm actually in much better shape than I thought. So Almanac of Entrances is going to give me a knock, which is basically a freebie, I believe. So if we take... Oh, this gets a little tricky, actually. Okay, so Earth Sign with door and wall. Yeah, no, that's fine. So we'll use these two for horns and ivories, so that'll be for the health. The Shapt, I will recover the Earth Sign in 30 seconds. We'll do that right now, actually. And again, all of the elements of the soul... No, not all of the elements of the soul are not spoken for. So for that, I will get an egg from Tuppence or Terrence, and then I will feed them the next day. I was thinking, actually, maybe... Maybe I recover one of these. It may not work out, but... I think it takes a minute to talk with one of the birds. Okay, we got gossip. So that would have been good for the sea stories, but we couldn't have known, right? So there it is, it can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but her scat traces the continent in her accent now. Okay, so we will level up horns and ivories. I am no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Was this magnificent and indomitable beast named for the rector's indomitable and magnificent housekeeper? Best not to inquire too closely. Offer this beast my company, who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. So yes, that does take a minute. Which means this fete is probably wasted. Night is fallen, dawn will come soon. So our final improvement for solutions and separation, oops. always something, always more to learn. I can preserve the gossip overnight. I'll do that in the violet chamber. So the remaining question is, all right, so I know that I'm getting my, actually, you know what? There we go, just save my money. No tuppence, no beer. There's a little recovery that I need to do. I'll get the old wound back right away. Overall, this was a pretty good day for us. The skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. So solutions and separations. The surgeon plies the knife and the mason plies the chisel. There are subtler tools than either. We have got spices and savors. There is no sacrifice without sustenance. So I should have moved that to position. And horns and ivories, the hunter, the way, and their memories. And then earlier we upgraded door and wall. The lock seeks its key, the wall seeks its door. And we who would we who would pass learn at last that they are not our servants. Let us hope that it is equally possible to forget this again. If there are crimes which apply only in dream, then it must also be that there are crimes that can only be committed there. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. We'll worry about the meal in a little bit. But that is it for today. So the next plan, I think it's pretty obvious because I got the Wormwood Dream, but we are going to try Nyx Abalix next. Now we're kind of lucky that it's going to be wolf stories, so that should be straightforward to level up. I'll take the opportunity to improve a couple of my, or to restore a few of my elements of the soul. And what we might also try and do is see if I can knock out one of those sky texts as well, because we are early in the summer, and it's not that hard for us to recover a Didumos. It actually would have been easier with all of these memories, but I imagine we'll have some more sunny days in the summer anyway. And then, at some point, I do actually need to fulfill this threat to actually take a look and see what I can get Mrs. Kill working on. But again, that's something we'll take care of in the future. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.